Thank you for joining AFCEA's monthly webinar series. This month we're doing an AFCEA panel discussion on women in technology. Before we join the meeting, talk a little bit about AFCEA. We are the local chapter of AFCEA International. We are a not-for-profit organization focused on a number of things around the city of Atlanta, mostly STEM, science, technology, education, and math. We've got approximately 300 members, and we are active in a variety of things. We support the members with monthly meetings on timely topics. We have continuing education training. We have connections with local resources where we do networking, and we also support a number of endeavors throughout the year, teacher tool grants, some scholarships. We also support the USO during the holidays or troop as they return over the Christmas holidays. And so now let's get into the panel. I'm pleased to have April Lake today as the moderator for this panel. She is a technology executive with expertise in large-scale technology transformation. She spent a large part of her career at Coca-Cola, ending as a VP for IT for Coca-Cola Refreshments in Canada. And she's currently an independent consultant focused on technology strategy and industry and working with nonprofits. She's a native of Georgia. She holds a Bachelor of Science degree from the University of Georgia. April?
Girls Who Code. Girls Who Code is an organization focused on increasing the number of women that are in computer science. They said building a diverse and inclusive workplace goes far beyond just hiring, especially when it comes to hiring women. Dr. Barrett, who leads this organization, said that companies need to focus more on supporting women once they're in the door. I'm excited to spend the next 45 minutes with 3 interesting and accomplished women who found the key to success in their chosen STEM fields. My goal is to learn from their experiences and be able to apply this with my teams, and I'm hopeful you can do the same. We are going to speak to these ladies for about 30 minutes, and then we'll save 15 minutes at the end for any of your questions. If you would like, please enter those into the chat window, and Paul's going to help me sort through them so we can ask the women at the end. So with that said, I'd like to ask each of our panelists to give us a brief introduction. Dr. Neese, would you mind kicking us off?
Thank you so much, April. So I'm Bethany Neese. I am a assistant professor at the University of North Georgia. My research areas are big data, analytics, decision quality, social networking inside the organization, AI, and cybersecurity. My PhD is very shiny and new. I've had it for less than a year. Prior to that, I spent 16 years in the manufacturing and agricultural industries, implementing global ERP, BI. I was leading efforts in data migration, data governance, and IS project management. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here to discuss such an important issue.
Thank you, thank you. Can I ask Maria Pineda, would you mind giving us an introduction?
Thank you, April. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here and for having us. So my name is Maria Pineda. I work with AFCEA Solutions. We're a software development, product development as a service organization. And I am heading, my role is with business development for our US operations. My background, I've been working in the technology space for 9 years now, right after graduating from university. I'm really looking forward to being with all of you here.
Thank you, Maria. And last but not least, retired Swasina. I think we were all really impressed as we were prepping for this at her background. I know most of you know her, being the former president of this organization. But for those who don't, Kathy, would you mind giving them a quick introduction?
Thank you. Yes, good morning, everyone. I'm Kathy Swasina, and as April mentioned, I am a retired colonel from the Army. I've had about 39 years worth of IT experience coming up through the ranks, former field artillery, and that's where I was first introduced to computers. And from there, did my career as up through the Army as a CIO trained by the Department of Defense, and several certifications in IT. And right now I am a program solutions executive for Chameleon Integrated Services, where I write solutions and basically architect new networks for our customers, and primarily in the federal space.
Fantastic. Thank you all. So for my first question, I'd like to start off with how you started your journey in technology. What was the original appeal to you with a career in technology? Maria, would you mind starting us off?
Thank you, April. That is a great question. Thank you for that. I had to make a choice at university. I was doing international business and USF. And the last year I had to choose a minor, and there was marketing, management, finance, all these different options. And then MIS, management of information system, was the scary one, the ones that only like the, introverts or very smart people would take, and it was always a little intimidating, but that was really the appeal to it. And my father was a PhD in computer science, so I always found interest in technology, but I wasn't sure if it was for me. I really wasn't sure. So I tried a few classes. I remember I tried C# and I was so scared of it. And then it wasn't really like that hard. It was more about the confidence. So I really fell in love with the technology space and continued from there.
Thank you, Maria. Kathy, would you mind giving us some information on how you ended up in technology and chose that as your career?
Well, I often call myself the accidental CIO. As my family was primarily medical background, medical research, etc. And I just always had kind of a love for math. And confession, I was a geek. I love Star Trek, and I always thought we should get those kinds of computers to help us with, with our projects as we are going through and moving on as the human condition. We needed some help. So I've always been kind of interested in computers and getting them to work better, faster, and smarter for us in support.
Thank you. And Bethany, what made you choose a career in STEM?
Very similar to Maria. I got to the point in my undergrad career where they said you have to pick. And it was between psychology and IS. And I had grown up with, my dad has always been in IT, and he was working at a pork rind factory, and the fans would get full of stuff. And so we would go in, take the servers apart, clean the fans, put them back together. And so IS has always been a part of my life, and that just seemed like the more natural path. And then once I got in, it just, the work was exciting, the classes were exciting, I had a great internship, and I was sold.
That's really interesting, especially with you and Maria having dads that had strong technology backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
An interesting stat I found was that the National Center for Women in Information Technology, women make up 47% of everyone in the workforce, but only 25% of the roles, computing roles. And this is despite roles in STEM increasing by 79% since 1990. And so given this background, what do you credit for your success in your careers? What's made you stick with it where it seems like others may not have? So Kathy, maybe I could start with you.
Okay. Well, I think why I chose IT and that career was I was having some really good mentors leading me in that direction. There was, as I was coming through, I was one of the first females to be put into field artillery, and which was basically a high technology job. I was in nuclear missiles, and so we had a whole fleet of trucks that were basically IT and signal, trucks, so fitted out. And so I had a number of mentors that helped me get into the computers to look at how to make things better in the military, in the Army. So I got into systems that helped further the Army in their technology, and was the project manager over several radios and helicopters and IT, type devices for the military. And I just really enjoyed working with the industry to help develop those products and help with the technology to bring it to the soldiers to help the Army mission.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I know that I stayed in technology throughout my bottling career with Coca-Cola because, like you, it was that constant, the changing technology kept me very interested, being able to move to different roles and try different things. And I think that's key to keeping women or anyone else engaged from a technology perspective, to not be frustrated if they're not able to be given those opportunities. So Bethany, what made you stay in technology?
So again, very similar themes here. It was my mentor network. So as soon as I got to work on day one, I had the best leader of my life. And so I knew what it felt like to be supported. And so what I did is, I know some people call it an advisory board. I called it Team Bethany. But I realized that there were conversations that I was not a part of at the higher levels regarding allocation of resources, awarding promotions, awarding stretch assignments. And so you look and see who's going to be in those conversations, and you get them on your team. You talk to them, you make sure they know who you are, where you're trying to go, your strengths, the areas you're trying to develop, and so that they can advocate for you when you're not there to represent yourself. And then you can also add to your team folks that if you want to be a better presenter, communicator, find somebody that's good at that and add them to your team. And so when you hit a wall, then you can invite someone to lunch or coffee, you already have them there, and start problem solving. And then in addition to that, it's just the excitement of IS. We're just, systems are everywhere. I challenge my students to say, to think about a role that doesn't involve a system. And the best answer I think I've gotten was lemonade stand, but even then I believe they probably use social media. So I kind of push back on that. So it's just very exciting. It's new, it's cutting edge, and you have so much choice in what you end up doing, what level you are, what types of processes you support.
Great, thank you. Hey, and Maria, you had shared some great stories last night about how your mentoring relationships have helped you in your career.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it is a crucial part to reach out, to look at to other women and men that are being successful and ask for help. It's okay to listen, to learn from others, and that's why it becomes so important to be part of communities, to support each other. I've been lucky enough to have a very supporting family, from my mom always being very business driven, confident, like you got this, never be shy, from my dad being the computer science, and all family really supported me really well. And then even when I started in my career here in Atlanta, when I'm away from family, and then find different organizations like Women in Technology has been really key for me. I'm connected with some amazing women like the president, or with Penny and Rachel. She has mentored me. They have been amazing leaders, and I volunteer for them, that organization now, helping other women, because they change really the way I look at my career. And I shared a story last night how, I didn't realize how much I should be getting. And because of those conversations, because of the women telling me, no, you worth this, you need to go for this, and learning and take classes and do self-development, take classes, learn and always improve. it's super important to have a strong support system. And we also have to become the support system for others that are learning. So I think it's super important to be part of these type of communities and supporting and mentors. Yes. And now my boss, I think I haven't told him, but Frank, he's listening and he has been mentoring me a lot. I've been learning so much from him. And so either from women, from men, it's important to listen to others and learn and support others.
I think that absolutely from a female perspective, and I'll be curious whenever we get to the questions to hear anybody's thoughts on developing those mentoring relationships in the workplace and any questions or thoughts they have about how to better do that or encourage that in the organization. Kind of an off the script, do any of you have an example or a good strategy that you've seen in your business context of mentoring organizations being set up? I know that when I was at Coca-Cola, one thing we did was as new people came into the organization, men and women, we would assign them to a senior leader. And this got more structured as we looked at performance. So some of our higher performers would continue through that process. But that's the way we ensure to set up that mentoring relationship to kind of, it's good for the business. It helps people prevent pitfalls. And we felt like it increased employee engagement and kept our top talent at the company. Do any of you have any thoughts on that or examples you've seen in your organizations?
Yes, I worked at Owens Corning for over 12 years, and we had something very similar. So if you were coming in as an intern, a new employee out of college, or just a new employee with experience, you were always matched up with a mentor. So whoever recruited you and knew you best looked across the organization and kind of made these formal relationships. And that was usually a kickoff to allow them time to meet people and create networks of their own. But at least on day one, they would have a network of at least 4 people to ask questions, formal and informal.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Does anyone else have any other feedback they'd like to give on that question?
Well, I'll go. In the military, we always had mentors and points of contact when we were moving from one station to another. And sometimes you were appointed one, and sometimes you could volunteer. And it was always great to have that handout, that handshake to be welcome to a place. And, you kind of form an initial bond with that person, and they kind of help you show you the ropes and who's who and where to go and what's what, and get your questions answered. And I think that's very helpful. I've had that for one of my jobs since I've been out of the military. And it is kind of nice to be able to be led and have somebody that you can go back to and say, okay, who do I talk to for, X, Y, Z? And just be able to have that kind of a bond. It's a friendship, it's warm and welcoming, and I think I would like to see that more in the industry.
Yeah, and Kathy, I mean, it's not just great for the employees, but the employers are also incentivized to do it because it really increases retention. If somebody feels like they have friends at work and support and people to go to, they're more likely to stay.
Exactly. Things are so transient anymore with positions and jobs. It's nice to be able to have that feeling of connection with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Maria, do you have
Yes.
any?
Yes, I'd say even if, organizations of different sizes, sometimes there's more opportunities to have more of those programs, but also when they encourage you to go out there and find those relationships as well with other organizations and create that sense of community. It's also important. I think it's all about having a culture of it's okay to ask questions, to make mistakes, to make a mistake and then have a feedback and be an encouraging one. So I think also that set of culture becomes important for that reach out.
So I've seen more structured programs in larger organizations. But now that I work on my own, I've had to find that through networking organizations like this one. I wondered if you had any recommendations for networking organizations you participate in that you might recommend to women and men on this call in order to connect from a mentoring perspective. Maria?
Absolutely. Oh, sorry. Yes, April, thank you. I'm currently involved with Women in Technology. As member, volunteer, they have, the mission is very pure, is a great network of women. And men also are welcome to, join. They have really good programs for younger girls, for college girls, and for women in the workforce. And they have really great mentorship programs. Another organization that I've been involved that I like a lot is Tag Technology Association of Georgia, and the different societies. They have different societies, so something you like, you will find it there. From data science, from product development, from fintech, all different industries. And then another one I participated recently to one, and I can't wait for them to reopen to do more, is the Atlanta, the foods, Atlanta Community Food Bank. So they're donating food, and it's also a lot of technology leaders come together to help the community. So if you have a good cause that you support, you will find a connection with technology, with mentorships. And sometimes you feel like, okay, no, I have to pick. There's so many organizations, which one? It's okay. There's always opportunities, even if it's just to help a little bit, or maybe you can help more, be a sponsor, or you can just go and help for an event. So I encourage everyone to volunteer, to partner, to contribute with the community, and at this great organization that I'm learning about, and I'm really, really enjoying. This is sharing this panel with all of you ladies is incredible. So definitely the fact that you're supporting women in technology is already really, really great.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you. Any other comments from our panel on that question? Any other? Great. Well, I've got one question for you. What advice would you give your daughter, niece, or other young girls interested in STEM as they start early in their career? What would you suggest?
Well, I'll take that one. Kind of piggybacking on what Maria was talking about, this organization is really reaching out to the community. And one of the things I would say to, my daughter's niece, et cetera, which I have said, is reach out to those organizations that are in your community to start with, and see, who you can latch on to, shall we say, as a mentor. Find women in the area that you want to go into to maybe help mentor you, and reach out. Don't be shy. You have to step out sometimes out of your comfort zone and reach out to something that really, interests you and tugs at your heart. Go ahead and pursue it. Don't stand in the sidelines and watch other people do it. Jump in. Fail forward to success, as I say.
I agree. Bethany?
Yeah, I think Kathy is right on. So in my career, I have divided things into the what and the how. So the what, I think what I would say is jump into IS sooner rather than later, even if it's not what you want to do full time. Everything is going to be system-based applications. Drones are going to be delivering your Amazon packages, or you can just print them, via 3D printer. So technology is everywhere, and the sooner you get in, the better. It's going to make you more valuable to your employer, regardless of your career path. So I would say jump in now, and also especially for women, people of color, people of all ages, we have big problems in IS. We have machine bias where we're codifying sexism, racism, ageism, because that's the way AI learns. We are having facial recognition that's only recognizing certain faces by race and gender. So we have these big problems, and research has shown over and over that diverse teams are the teams that provide the most forward-thinking, thoughtful, sustainable solutions. So we need that diversity, and we're just getting there so slowly. We need a step change. So come one, come all, come right now. So that's the what, and then the how, as Kathy was saying, you know, we really need to see somebody that we can relate to in that field, so we can sort of picture ourselves. So find that somebody, whether it's a professor, someone in your parents' circles, and, you know, just like Kathy said, ask, because people love to give back. I told this to my interns when I was in industry. I tell it to my students now. People love to help. And so if you ask, hey, could we go to lunch and ask you these questions? Could you help me out? Could I visit you at work and shadow you for a day? Most often the answer is going to be yes. So just reach out, put yourself out there and ask.
Yes, absolutely. And I think following up on what Bethany is saying about diversity and how it's so important to bring it to the table, companies are realizing more and more how it is important to have different perspectives. It really adds value to the organization. So advice to our younger selves, like exactly what Kathy was saying, reach out, don't be scared, go for that opportunity, go for that interview, ask that question, jump into that project. If you fail, it's okay to fail, and just get up faster and keep going. And then for bigger organizations, keep bringing diversity and inclusion into women and all different races and genders to come into the table, because we do bring a different perspective that will make more valuable. I'm proud to say at AFCEA Solutions, 35% of our workforce, we are women. And for a technology company, that's you know, a little above average. So we need more support, of more inclusion, more diversity.
I know that when I was leading large projects in a corporation, one thing I did was just something simple like making sure the younger folks in the room are pulling themselves up to the table, watching their body language for when they're about to speak, but maybe spoken over by someone else, and making sure to call on them, to ask them what their thoughts are. I think that's something we can all do in these organizations to make sure our younger talent feels heard and that their voices are important in the decision making too, because to everyone's point, diversity of thought across gender, across age, across nationality, these are all important to have the most successful products. So I think that's key. We've also heard strongly how mentoring is really important. And I echo what Kathy said, researching this organization, even online, there seems to be a lot of opportunities to connect and obtain mentors and just find that community of people to help push forward in your area of interest. So if you haven't, I really recommend digging through and seeing where you can connect so that you can develop those mentoring relationships. I know every large career step that I've had has been due to a mentor telling me that I could do it. And it was usually roles that I probably wouldn't have applied to just on my own. So I think it's important to have that team Bethany approach of people that want to push you forward. And with that, I know we are running a little bit early, Paul, but I did want to ask, before I ask some more questions, just if anyone has questions for the panel before I move forward. I haven't seen any specifically in the chat, but if anyone would like to unmute to ask a question, we could do that too, right, Paul?
And Paul's muted.
I know.
I said yes.
Okay, perfect.
So
Great mix
if
of
somebody
people.
raises their hand, I can unmute, or
No problem. I see quite a mix of people on here. So if anyone has any questions, please let me know.
Hey, so can I just say something about AFCEA and some of the opportunities we have in this organization? I'm also a member of several other organizations and sit on several boards. But AFCEA kind of wraps everything into one package. You can come from academia, industry, military background, whatever, and find a mentor and talk with people in an unbiased way of communication and exchange of ideas. This organization here in Atlanta, we are even trying to reach out to help the Girl Scouts with their cyber badges. And so we're trying to put together a women's group, or group of men and women within the community to help with those girls at a young age, try and get into and keep that interest going in STEM and IT. So there are constant things that we're doing as an organization to reach out to the community to help with STEM and IT interests.
I think that's great. And especially with COVID, I find that those relationships are more important now than ever, because you're not interacting with people as much just at work in the hallway, really plugging into organizations like this, so that it's almost like a push rather than a pull, where you're pulled into things like working with the Girl Scouts and developing those relationships. I think that's key. So thank you for that. Thank you. Well, if I don't have any questions, I might just ask our panelists. We've talked some about the impact of COVID on the way we work today, and just, as you as a professional, if you could talk about that just briefly. We have 3 different segments here of service. So if we could just start, Maria, maybe touch on how COVID has impacted you from a working perspective.
From a working perspective, the impact was mainly into those, of course, face-to-face interactions with clients, with prospects, with partners. I love the face-to-face approach, so a lot of my work was going to meetings, lunch meetings, conferences, events, all kinds of on-site interactions with people. Now, I've been working from home from a few years now, but I still go out there, visit my clients on site. I like to be there. That has been the biggest impact. Now I'm talking with clients, with prospects, with the community by phone, by Zoom calls. So that has been a big impact, because it takes a little longer to build that relationship, to build that trust. Communication sometimes with my strong accent it was easier sometimes face to face. So just little challenges like that. But thank goodness, everyone has been very supporting, and we keep going. From business perspective, we have to look at a different way of solving issues for our clients. Just how COVID has impacted their business, and now the approach is a little more different. It's more how can we help you deal with the crisis, and technology is key in everything that we do. So by understanding the client's problems, even if it's through Zoom calls, by phone calls, by researching, by reading, and then providing the right solution. So let's say it takes a little longer to get to something, but it's still working. Thank goodness for technology, so that we can have this type of communications. I can imagine if we didn't have Zoom, if we didn't have video calls, it would be much harder. So that would be one of the impacts, I believe.
Great, thank you. Bethany, your thoughts on changes the way you work? I know that you're looking at your first school year under COVID. That's interesting.
Yes, it is very interesting. So I would say the biggest impacts from an academic standpoint are the recruiting fairs used to be face-to-face, since you could rely on your personality, your charisma to sort of reflect what you can do. And now we're doing virtual. And so you submit your resume, and then you might have a 5-minute video chat like we're doing here. And so it's a little bit more difficult. And so I always let them know to be more aware of what's on their resume, what keywords are they using, because it's most likely an AI that's going to be scanning that before a human ever sees it. So be more aware of technology from that perspective so that you get chosen, so that your resume goes to the top and you actually get that Zoom interview. And also, I think anxiety has gone up a lot because we have heard about layoffs and they're trying to enter the job market when there's less headcount, when there's budget cuts. And so they're trying to boost their GPAs, but at the same time, we're going from a primarily face-to-face to a primarily online, which is completely different for them. They have to know where their resources are. They have to have time management. All of these things changed within just a couple of months. We were mid-semester really when this hit at the beginning of the year. So I try to tell them, it's sort of like an eat your vegetables conversation. I tell them that this is actually good for you because you can develop these skills and you can tell these stories in an interview. So even if you, just like Maria's saying, if you feel like you're failing or you fall down or you get a bad grade, it's a great story as long as you can say, but I learned this and now I'm applying it. So it's all in the way that you perceive the situation and then take it forward. So anxiety and recruiting, I think, are the biggest COVID outcomes from academics.
So, Kathy, would you like to add anything?
Sure. COVID, I see it as an opportunity. Never before have we so needed IT as solutions for this pandemic. We started out before the pandemic with a very big shortage in this country of IT personnel and people that are qualified for IT. Now, this is a great opportunity and companies are still hiring. With the IT solutions that need to come about because of COVID, because we are working more from home, because people are having to deal with the stress and the current technology, shall we say, of communications and being able to work from a dispersed location for their job. Now's the time to put those ideas and get those ideas together through collaboration tools like this, like we're doing today, to talk about what we can bring as solutions. I think we're going to see an IT boom. I think we're going to see new companies sprout up because of this. So some people have been laid off, some people are losing their jobs, but again, networking and mentoring and just getting into brain trusts where you can talk and share ideas. I think a lot of things and opportunities are going to come from this. And as far as school goes, we need to educate people even more. So if they're sitting at home and have the opportunity, or military, have the GI Bill, put it to good use and take this time to further your education and get some classes under your belt. It makes you more marketable too.
No, that's great. And that
Specifically, you should take my classes.
a plug for UNG, right, Bethany? Love it. So we had a question from Catalina. You're talking about how relationships are important to be successful. What does the younger generation need to learn when digital times are changing and how to communicate with others? So what are your thoughts, ladies? I know from my perspective, I think the younger generation has a great opportunity just based on what's online now. Whether it is, we are now talking digitally in almost every networking event I'm going to. I had an opportunity with a technology I hadn't used before and was able to go onto YouTube and really educate myself extensively. And that's something I couldn't have done in my 20s because the resources just weren't available. So from a younger generation being able to have access to free certifications, free intellectual opportunities to learn, and opportunities to practice, leveraging Zoom in networking events, I think that's key. Does anyone else have anything else to add for that question?
I can go, April. I think you hit a really important point into how technology and this new generation has so much opportunity because of that access, right? Technology is allowing us to have a broader perspective, a more global perspective. Now we can, instead of like, let's say we have an event, like we can invite people from all over the world to participate and listen. And at the same time, there's so much education online now that really, even if somebody, like, if there's not enough resources for something, so like you can, there's no excuse now, like anything you can think of that you don't know, that you need to know, you can find it online. So I think that access that younger generation has now, that maybe before it wasn't there, brings a huge opportunity and also brings a responsibility on how to do this better, how to use this in the best way. And that's what, like, social media and all these things, like, okay, they can be good, they can also be bad based on how we use it. So I would say that there's a great opportunity that also comes with big responsibility. And yes, I would say leverage technology and have a clear vision of the goals that you want to accomplish and what you want to learn and leverage as much as possible.
I love your point about globalization, because really there are a lot of events and conversations that used to be more localized that now, because of technology and everyone's going to be dialing in anyway, we open it up to a wider audience. So but at the same time, it's a little overwhelming because now your choices have also exponentially grown. So really, putting yourself out there, getting those mentors is really important so they can help guide you to see what to look for. So whether that be professors, like I said, friends of your parents, or if you just go online to a company that you admire and look at their organization and reach out to even the CIO. And even if the CIO doesn't have time, she or he can send you to reference you to someone else. So put yourself out there, get those couple strong mentors, and your opportunities are large.
I would say for, how we build relationships, can you imagine right now how a 6-year-old that's going into first grade and learning how to use these tools to communicate with other children from, and it can be all over the globe, how to exchange ideas and cultures, and how rich that's going to make their lives as they go forward. Staying curious is always a good thing. I think Leonardo da Vinci was one of the original, and Einstein kept their minds young by staying curious and exchanging ideas and looking at things as a global interest. So, I think those kinds of learning that we're doing right now is going to really make the up and coming generations really better than the past.
Yeah, and we use mentoring a lot, but I think the term networking is also very important, because sometimes mentoring seems like this really personal one-on-one relationship, whereas having a strong network of resources, people in different areas, that's also key. Just making sure you're connecting with them on a regular basis. I believe everything I've done in my career, every success has been due to someone in my network helping me. So I think creating that early and keeping those relationships intact, and we have the ability with so many social media platforms today to be able to do that. I think that's key. So we have another question. It's interesting. We have someone that's also working on their doctorate in IT, Bethany, and the thought is that organizations aren't really looking for advanced degrees. And can we speak to which certifications to pursue if companies aren't? Would anyone like to chime in on that one?
I can kick it off just because I was in industry when I started my PhD. So I think it's all in the way that you frame it. So the degree itself, I think an organization would not especially value that, but if you frame it in the way to say, I'm being trained in the scientific method, that puts me in a great position to solve problems. It puts me in a great position to look at resources that other people aren't looking at. When was the last time you were in a meeting and there was an issue and someone said, off to the academic archive? Nobody. And so, once you're trained, you have more awareness of the resources that are out there. You can talk about continuous improvement, and that's where the value comes in when you transform it into from I'm getting this degree to how can this help you, whatever organization I'm in. That's the value. And so I think that you can frame it in such a way where they would support you with time and also financially in a lot of cases. As for certifications, this is my personal view. We'll let the panel see what other opinions are out there. Certifications, I was recruiting for 16 years, and they're great to see because it shows that you have drive, it shows that you are going towards a goal, right? All of those great things, but the certification itself, unless you have experience, doesn't really tell me a lot other than it's an indicator of what you want to do and that you have the drive to get there. So I don't really have a specific certification. I would just recommend that whatever area that you're most interested in, find not only the certifications, but find a way to wrap that into your current role so you can have that experience and you can pair those together when you have the conversations and put it on your resume.
That's great, Bethany. Maria?
Yes, so absolutely. I am a big believer in continuous education, continuous improvement, formal or not formal. So I think organizations are gonna look at more like Beth was saying, you as a person, you can have great certifications, educations, everything, but if you don't use that or if you don't present it in a way that will be useful and valuable for the organization, that is nothing. The same other way you can say I have all this experience, but if you don't know what you're talking about, then that's it. So both areas, I believe, are equally important, and continuing education, even if it's just to take an online class about something. And also, the more you learn, the more you realize what you don't like or what you do like, or why you don't mind failing about, why you don't mind pursuing. So I wouldn't say specific, okay, the doctorate degree, is it gonna help me make more money? Maybe yes, maybe no. Depends how you put it with your whole soul and mind, and how you align it to your objectives.
I'll say my boss likes to refer to me as a Swiss Army knife because I've had a lot of certifications up through my career, both in the military and since then in the industry. And it's been kind of a job necessity for some of the certifications. Things like project management is always well received, both within the military and industry, and even in academia. Some of the research projects and everything need project manager qualified personnel. So I think project management is always a good certification to get. Master's degrees I've found are very well received. PhDs are, most of the time well received. Sometimes I've been told that it's almost like, well, you're overqualified for this position. Why would you want to go in this position? But I'm for education, and I always try and do some educational class or certification every year anyway. Just whatever is leading me in that direction, whether it's job or just personal interest. So, with my background and wanting to go more and deeper into IT and IT strategy, that's one of the reasons why I pursued the Chief Information Officer certification. So, it's kind of engineering versus strategy versus, what do you want to do with it? Projects, project management, oversee people, or just research. it's all out there. So I would say, look for the certifications that help you in that area that you're interested in.
Those are all great. I'll add a few things. I just transitioned from corporate to working independently. And one thing I did when I was looking at executive education was I found things that really ignite a passion. I was interested in artificial intelligence. I took an executive education class on that. I look at your doctorate, I'm assuming you have a passion for your field. And I think it's important to show that passion when you interview. I also started looking at job postings that I would be interested in and seeing the requirements for those jobs, or looking at people that were in roles that I wanted to be in, either now or in the future. And I would see what their education level was or what certifications they had. And then I would focus on those, because if that's where I want to be, I can take those things now to try to get there. So hopefully that was helpful in answering your question, and good luck to you and congratulations on your doctorate. That's a huge achievement. So I'm really impressed by it. And with that, we only have a couple more minutes left. Paul, I think we're ready to wrap up. I just thank you all. It's been lovely. I've truly enjoyed and added 3 fantastic women to my personal network. If there are any other questions, you could probably message any of us on LinkedIn. I know that's where I connected with them. Thank you once again for letting us come in and speak to you today. Technology is something I have a real passion for, have always loved it, and just love bringing more people in to the fold to learn and just bring a different, diverse view to things, because I think that's how we get to get better as a country. Thank you. And Paul, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Great. Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Okay. So we have a couple more events coming up. Next Thursday, we have a Young AFCEA event, which is actually a boot camp for AFCEA. And so it'll give a kind of an overview of what AFCEA is and what is going on AFCEA worldwide. So if you know, today, if this kind of piqued your interest, this will be a good time next week to come in and see what's going on. We've got some people from headquarters in DC that will be joining the meeting, and then we're going to be talking about some of the stuff here. Next month, we have a webinar on the cyber maturity or cybersecurity maturity certification that's coming up. It's a requirement for agencies that are contracting with the federal government, and it's heavily tied into the NIST standards. So a lot of people have a lot of questions about it. We have Tommy from HP's federal government team that's going to be coming in and giving a full hour presentation on that. It's actually set up for CEU certification. So if you complete that class, you will have the ability to what they call self-certify. So you submit the presentation, you submit the participation, and then you can get the CEU for your requirements. Let's see. And then after that, we have in September, we have a presentation on DevSecOps that's going to kind of go into how the Air Force is addressing how technology actually interacts with personnel in the field, which is kind of a new thing for them. A lot of people just kind of say, do it, and they don't really think about how it actually interacts in the field. And so now they're talking about how they're changing these things to actually be more user-friendly, and it's reflecting more of the kind of commercial environment that's out there. With that, are there any other points or anything else that we have? So I guess we're going to end a couple of minutes early. I thank you guys for joining. We will post a recording of this on the AFCEA website. And if you guys have any topics for future meetings or anything like that, let us know. We work to set it up. You guys have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
You. Thank you.